A list of the topics, themes, and subject matter featured in this episode has been included in the episode description.
Hi, I'm Kenny, the DM for Fables of Frost and Fur, and I'm joined by my lovely cast.
Matt.
Carmen. Kaylee.
And we are at the end of Season 1. Guys, what just happened?
Oh, jeez.
The beginning of the world and also the end of it.
Choices. You made some choices.
Dice also made some choices. That was pretty wild. I was kind of scared, not gonna lie.
Really clever DM shenanigans. Goodness.
Yeah.
And without further ado, thank you so much for being here with us. We appreciate every single one of you, and please enjoy the end of Season 1. This season, on Fables of Frost and Fur, once upon a time, there was a kingdom called Alize, ruled by the beloved Sun King. Inga, the Snow Queen, impassioned by anger and vengeance, cursed Artois, the kingdom's capital. The curse transformed the king and tens of thousands of Alizeans into monstrous beasts. It granted him immortality, but trapped him in his castle for all of eternity. But the curse followed the rules of old magic. Every curse must have a key to breaking it. In her hubris, Inga created the key as something she thought impossible. A beast woman, human-born, must kiss the king to break the curse. But Inga had not predicted that the beasts and the humans could make a new race together, and the beastkin people grew more numerous and powerful. She enslaved the beastkin to enrich her own kingdom, but it was an imperfect control. Her omniscient magic could only see all humans within her grasp, but beastkin were invisible to her. A malicious entity residing in the wondrous sea known only as the Patron violently transformed a young woman named Poppy into a beastkin herself, orchestrating events to push her towards the Sun King. Poppy now stands at the precipice of fate in the ruins of Artois. If Poppy lifts the curse, she would be transformed back to human, along with the Sun King and every beastkin person. The patron is counting on this. If either the Sun King or the Snow Queen kill each other, he can use that release of power to escape the wondrous sea. If the Sun King is released from the curse, the patron knows it would only be a matter of time before one of them kills each other, giving him a pathway to entering the material world. In a strange twist of fate, both of Poppy's beloved companions, Harlan and Veering, are bound to cosmic forces that would be her mortal enemies. Veering is a warlock, and her soul belongs to the same malicious god that cursed Poppy, a god who figured out long ago that he could exploit the breaking of the curse to cause a war that would rend the very fabric of the wondrous sea and unleash him into the world. Harlan is a paladin in the Queen's most elite service. He broke his oath to tell Poppy the truth of who he is, and now he suffers a slow and painful death. We continue our journey at a lake just outside of the city of Artois, where Poppy holds a stone heart, the one Inga used to fuel the curse all those years ago. Beams of moonlight stream through dark trees, their branches swaying gently alongside this quiet lake. Poppy stands, holding a heart of stone, lighter than it should be. Although she can't prove it, she feels that there's an immense amount of magic surrounding this object. As it lays in her hands, as mundane as a rock.
As the effects of peering into the sea fade away from her, the thrumming that sits in the palm of her hand, pulsing in movements that are eerily similar to heartbeats, begin to fade away. Darkness, the forested area, the small bank just beside the lake, it all comes back clearly into view. And Poppy is freezing. There's water dripping down her face, her arms, but her first steps are to her uncle. Does this mean anything to you?
Harlan wordlessly picks up the heart, turns it over. I don't know. Doesn't speak to me.
Most magic I can read is a book, and Vian gently takes it from Harlan's hands. She can feel that his hands are so cold now. And before she begins her ritual, she takes off her own shawl and wraps it around Poppy's shivering shoulders with a little gesture of prestidigitation to help dry the soaking wet clothes. And then she pulls away from the others for 10 minutes of ritual casting to detect magic on this piece.
As Vian holds the stone heart, she hears a whisper, gentle at first, and then a harsh hiss, and then 2, and then 3, until a cacophony of whispers clouds her mind as she struggles to cast a simple ritual. This magic is old, and it is wild, but she clears her mind. And after she finishes casting the ritual, she can sense that this heart was used as a conduit, a price to be paid for an immensely powerful curse. But she can feel that while a torrent of magic swirls through this object, it is too much. The magic that was asked of this object, this heart, required much more, and whoever cast it fell short. And as Vian takes in this information, she senses something off to her left, something on the ground, also immensely powerful in magic.
Vian returns to Poppy and gently gives her back the heart. This is the price that was paid for the curse. This is what brought Sangi into the world. But it wasn't perfect. There was something missing. And there's something still out there. Vian returns to the water's edge. Doesn't bother to kick off her fine boots. She wades into it.
Following the scent of magic, like a bloodhound, she gently makes her way. She dips her hand down underneath the dark waters. And she feels around a bit. And underneath the silt and the sand, she finds it. And she pulls it out of the water. A book. A tome, really. Leather bound. And as she pulls it up, she can feel and see, even in the dim moonlight, that it is in pristine condition. And as the water drips away from it, she feels it in her hand, and it is bone dry.
Vian smiles as she holds this in her hand. Warm and freezing. It is energetic and still. And somehow it feels like this is the key. But she doesn't know what it unlocks yet, so she hurries out of the water and brings it back to the others.
Vian, are you okay? What is that?
It's been here for a long time, as far as I can tell. Can you feel that?
I can't, and I didn't when I was looking into the sea, so...
Harlan, does this feel like anything to you? I think this was Inga's.
Harlan reaches out to it and takes it. Opens it up. What is this?
As the 3 of you rifle through the pages of this book, to your surprise, you find that it is not a spell book or a grimoire, but a child's storybook. The Tales of Reynard the Fox. A collection of fables of a clever fox and his various adventures to outwit a king named Noble the Lion, with a number of other animal friends, including Hercent the she-wolf.
All right, the lion I recognize and she-wolf. Is the fox? Is that... Do you think it could be?
I don't know. I thought this would be magic. I didn't think it was just going to be stories. It feels like so much more.
It was magic. You saw it.
Some of these are gods.
I don't know what this means.
Vienne closes the book in Harlan's hands with both of hers. There may come a time in which my knowledge is not just my own. If we have to keep secrets from the patron, there may be things I should not see.
If these tales are real and not just fabricated stories for children, I have a feeling your patron already knows all of them.
I expect the truth is somewhere in between. I don't know. Stories for children, and there's a lot of truth in them. And he flips through the book, trying to find stories especially about her scent.
Harlan rifles through, and he finds one where a clever hunter traps Hercent the she-wolf. And before he can come back to collect her, Reynard approaches and offers her a deal. One of her pups for her freedom. And she refuses. And before he can try to coerce her further, Noble the Lion appears with his royal retinue and shoos him away. And using the fire from his paws, he melts the trap and releases her, and tells her that she and her husband Isengrim the wolf now owe him a favor. The story then devolves and gets intertwined with several others, upon which Hercent the she-wolf is mentioned much less.
A favor. Well, I wonder if that favor was ever paid off. I don't see anything in here about it. If it was paid off, it's not in here.
So some of the stories have not yet resolved.
Yeah.
Harlan, don't show me too much, but show me an empty page at the back of the book. One with no writing on it.
He rifles through looking for one.
Harlan makes his way to the last few pages that should be blank, but they're not. Handwritten onto the final few pages are some scribbles from a delicate hand describing pain and anguish of losing a queendom of her own and the vengeance that she vows.
What a clever wizard she is. She took the idea right from my own mind. She wrote the ending herself. This is where she wrote the curse. Is there no more paper, Harlan?
That's it?
Basta! Short-sighted! Son of a bitch! Well, we know how she did it.
Now, do you think these last pages were always in here? Or do you think she added them in so she could have something to write on?
As Vienne takes a bit of a look, trying her hardest not to read what's on the page, she notices that while the pages are close to identical, they are magically added on to this book.
Harlan, puppy, this is how she changed reality. She used something magical to exact a price, and then she found something with the ability to write her own fate. Harlan, this is how we can save you.
You have any magic paper on you?
No. But I know that we are very close to a kingdom with someone that might be able to help.
Puppy, would he help us?
I have to imagine he will not be very glad that I've brought you. He doesn't know you two exist.
You never mentioned us once.
Well, yeah, of course I did. But not that I'm actively with you.
All right.
But I have to warn you guys, he wants me to lift the curse. He doesn't see a future where he doesn't. kill Inga. But he doesn't know about your patron. He doesn't know what he wants. He may be convinced, but we're going to need good evidence.
Of course, now you know him, well, at least better than we do. Do you trust him enough to give him something like this?
I don't know what other choice we have. Uncle Harlan, you are steps away from death.
More than a few steps. I've got some steps left in me. No,
Wobbly ones.
not quite on death's door yet. You got some time to think about it.
Well, I'm not going to waste that time standing here. Not when we have such powerful magic in our grasp. The very thing that may save you from death. The only thing that could save you from death. I know you're not willing to make that choice. Puppy, I think that you may have to choose for him. He won't go onward without you.
I'm sorry, Uncle Harlan, but I think we need to try.
Well, he can't be that powerful right now, can he? Otherwise he would have gotten himself out. Let's see what he has to say.
He needs me. Just as much as we need him.
The three of you gather your things. Together with Alfie carrying Harlan, you make your way through the dark woods north, where you can see off in the distance the peak of the castle in Artois, looming like a shadowy spike in the night.
Harlan has the heart in his hands. As he's writing, he doesn't know what he's doing, but he's trying something, anything to commune with it, to find some kind of connection through it, either to Inga or to Hirset.
As you make your way through the pitch black night, Harlan starts to drift into an uneasy state between consciousness and unconsciousness, fixated on this heart of stone. As he fades in and out, he sees flashes, glimpses of Hirset on the frozen lake, the chains around her getting looser as she perks her head up, but still bound. And the vision shifts. And for the first time in a long time, Harlan feels at ease as he catches glimpses of a shoreline. Dusk, and the trees rustling, in his finest clothes that he could manage to scrounge together. As a priest in a light blue robe stands on top of a hill with him. Looks down the hill. He is in the best wedding dress she could afford. A bonnet around her hair lovingly made by her sisters. And she makes her way up the hill with a bouquet of flowers. A smile beaming from her face. And the priest acknowledges her and looks towards Harlan, towards Arlo.
He's known this for a long time, but he is the luckiest man alive. He knows it more than ever in this moment. He takes her hands as she reaches the top of the hill. He cannot stop smiling.
Ellen looks back at him, and she wordlessly mouths, "Hi." And the rest is a blur in Arlo's memory. He has no idea what the priest said, and to this day he will never remember any word the priest said. But he will always remember the eyes, piercing blue, looking at him, with the sun setting behind them, as they say those faded words.
Always and forever. My love.
And the vision dims.
As Harlan's memory fades into reality, the gentle, soft hands of Ellen become a rough, determined grasp of a fox-kin woman who is bedraggled but fierce. She is gently pulling him down from the horse. He's already sliding halfway as she catches his light body as he falls.
Alfie protests as Veering brings Harlan down. Don't put me back out there. We'll be too slow.
Nonsense. And with a few words of magic, Veering gently lifts him up onto a floating disc. One in which he doesn't have to hold on to. She could see that weakness coming through him.
As Veering completes this feat of magic, Alfie nuzzles at him.
It's okay, boy. Poppy, do you know the way?
Poppy is already several steps ahead, nearly 25 feet. She's scouting out, making sure there's nothing dangerous lurking in these woods as well. Surprised at hearing her own name, her head whips back. I think we're closer than we think. And through the break of trees, down a slope, the city sprawls out in front of them.
The city is massive. Tall structures spanning far as the eye can see along this dark coastline, illuminated by a full moon. As a hint of orange light appears on the horizon, indicating the ever-encroaching march of morning. And they make their way down. Soon they find themselves surrounded by old, destroyed wooden homes on the outskirts of the city. Streets that would normally be clear, dirt paths that would usually be well-tread, now overgrown.
As they make their way through and dust kicks up around them, Poppy pats her pockets and locates the rings. I don't know when this curse starts, but better to be safe than sorry, right?
This is further than anyone ever went that I knew.
Then we have to be careful. And she hands each of the rings out.
As Harlan takes the ring, he brings himself up onto one elbow and turns to Alfie. Silently nods. The horse looks so unhappy, but then turns and walks back in the direction they came. He can't come with us. That's as far as he can go without one of these things. He'll be all right.
He's going to need you to come back for him, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
Say it with feeling, Harlan.
Look at you, so worried. And he squeezes Veering's hand.
I'm worried that if we don't bring you back, that horse is gonna hunt me down.
That horse will only have one purpose, and I'll come back. It won't be to hunt you down. It'll be to keep you safe.
We're going to fix you, Uncle Harlan. You can't retire just yet.
That is one way of putting it. Would have chosen a more peaceful option if I was going to retire.
Now down to the three of you. You approach the city gates, and you find them open and empty. As you take a few steps forward with trepidation, you feel the rings on your fingers get a bit warmer as you pass the city gates and you walk in. You're greeted with the sight of a wide main road with tall buildings lining the side of it, 3-4 stories tall. Most of them are made of stone, weathered, chipped at this point. Whatever wood that was used for their sides or for their ceilings now caved in and rotting. The weathering taking effect. As you make your way down, you find yourselves having to step around large piles of rubble and wood. And you notice that every now and then you find stone rubble that is taller and slimmer than it should be, barring your way. As you walk past in this moonlight with the gentle orange glow on the horizon, you take a closer look at these. To your surprise, you find that they are men. Statues frozen in time, human and beastkin alike. One in the middle of picking something up off the ground, the other in the middle of climbing out of a window. And you find them all along this road as you continue your way towards the looming, tall structure in the distance, Castle Artois.
Well, I guess it wasn't lying about this bar.
It would seem as though he wasn't motivated to trap us here, as stone.
Right, he needs his war.
We mustn't give it to him. Poppy.
There is a woman turned to stone, examining a fruit in her hand, petrified along with her. And Poppy is mere inches from her face, examining the lines of wisdom that etch into her cheeks, the thoughtful expression in her eyes. And she doesn't hear either of you.
Pip-Pop.
Sorry. And with one last look at the woman, she walks back over.
Poppy, the patron got us this far because he wants there to be a war. Do you agree we must not give it to him?
I agree.
Well, we've seen how much damage even a purportedly well-meaning character in this book has done. Can you imagine what he would do if he had free reign here?
I want nothing more than for Inga to answer for what she's done to these people in this land. But releasing that thing, that's not justice or peace.
As you continue to make your way through this main road, you see the buildings get even taller. Magnificent feats of engineering 300 years ago. You see the remnants of a civilization at the height of their power. The opulent wealth laying about, gold jewelry, gold coins, fine silks now dilapidated and moss-eaten, strewn about these streets. And it doesn't end. It's so long. But eventually, this main road leads to a grand staircase. And these stairs lead up to a tremendous castle. Its spires, many spires, erect from a grand foundation of gold and marble. Flying buttresses connecting these all together in an intricate pattern that is hard to look at. You don't know where one ends and the other begins. This castle is massive, and it stands silent.
Vian begins up the stairs. Harlan, on his invisibly floating platform, follows dutifully behind. Enjoy the rest, my friend. We'll take the stairs for you. In this moment, it feels like any other adventure. That they're going somewhere new, towards something unknown. And that even in this moment, there is beauty to be cherished here. Because we are the first people to have made it this far in the old crown jewel of Alizé. For 300 years. And this city that was built by people that had come into this world with nothing, it's still almost as beautiful. And so Vian chatters about any of the history that she knows to keep their minds occupied.
Smiles grow on Harlan and Poppy's faces as they ascend these seemingly never-ending stairs. And as they do, they turn their heads to the right, where they can see in the east across a bay. Crystal clear blue waters, brilliant sun turning the sky from red to orange to finally clear blue skies. Dawn breaks. As it does so, you start reaching the top of the stairs. Kaylee, Carmen, Matt. As Harlan, Vianne, and Poppy have not slept through the night, I want each of you to make a Constitution saving throw. Vianne and Poppy have a DC of 10. Harlan has a DC of 20.
Oh boy.
I just rolled a natural 20.
Woo! I just rolled a natural 1.
Oh.
Oh.
9 on the die. Not going to do it.
While the resolve in Poppy's heart fuels her and energizes her steps, Vianne and Harlan feel the effects of staying up through the night and walking the whole way. They each take 1 point of exhaustion.
As that brilliant sunrise comes over the bay, Vianne excitedly leans over one of the stone balustrades and points wildly. Poppy, Harlan, look, can you see it across the water? That's my home. That's where I grew up.
It's beautiful, Bien. And maybe when this is all said and done, we could head there. I'd love to see it.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Harlan, you're still okay?
I'm okay. And he looks at that far-off place. And then he turns his gaze down back the stairs that they have just ascended. And he beholds Artois in the fullness of dawn. It's beautiful. But he also sees just how many of these statues, of these people, are scattered below. He sees someone, it looks like they were caught mid-stride, being held by another statue who must have just stopped and decided this is where they would stay until the end. And he wonders what they were looking for when they came seeking here. All right. We should keep going.
The 3 of you make your way to the top of the stairs, where you see a grand bridge suspended by stone hundreds of feet into the air. And as you walk closer and closer to enormous castle gates, to your complete shock, you see them move, and they open. And emerging from behind the doors, a man, more lion than man, his golden fur glistening in the morning sun, his red mane fiery and bright and brilliant, as he stares with his mouth agape in shock and his eyes wide, but he doesn't move any further, and he collapses to his knees.
Familiarity is strange, because it's present. Feels like she knows him, but at the same time, as she takes in his large stature, the glistening golden of his fur and hair, she has never met this man in her life. Well, at least you didn't start with a joke. And she walks over to him and holds out a hand.
He stands up, and he smiles, and then he puts his hands on his hips, sheepishly kicks the ground. I'm sorry, but this is actually the limit of where I can walk you. I cannot take your hand. You have to walk in. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
That's all right. And she does a sidestep, allowing both Vienne and Harlan to be in view behind her before she makes that step past the barrier.
Oh, you brought friends. Yeah, I suppose I should not be surprised. Welcome. Yes. Hello there. Come in. Is the man all right? Is he floating?
He's not, and that's something I was hoping you could help with. But there's a lot to explain first. This is Vienne and my Uncle Harlan.
As the two of you approach him, you stand at the border of the outside world in this castle. Ardent, the forgotten king of Alizé, looks at the two of you. Well, you all look like you need some breakfast. Come in. You look absolutely exhausted. Come in.
Yen helps Harlan to his feet so that he can preserve some dignity.
Poppy takes the first step over the barrier and then reaches a hand out.
Ardent looks at her and looks at her hand, and he smiles. And then there's a moment of doubt on his face, a bit of hesitation, and he embraces Poppy and pulls her into a hug.
Poppy is stiff as a board for a moment, but she feels the loneliness and the despair. She can't help herself but hug him back.
She feels quivering in his body and then sniffles. And it lasts for a bit too long before he lets go and says, I'm sorry, apologies, and he wipes away the tears from his eyes. Come. We should feed you. Yes. Where are my manners? Yes, absolutely. Come this way. I'll show you around. Here, I can help him. Ardent takes one of Harlan's arms, wraps it around his shoulders, and he very gingerly but incredibly strongly hoists him up and guides him into walking, half carrying him through these brilliant halls. As you walk through, you see the entrance of this castle is massive. An empty space above your head, easily 3 or 4 stories tall, and above you a painted ceiling, faded now, but once in its day you can tell gorgeous. As light begins to stream through these magnificently tall windows lining the floor to the ceiling, you see marble floors, pristine and clean, in fact, recently. But you see that the higher balustrades, the higher chandeliers, the candle holds up high, dusty and dilapidated. But everything within reach of the ground, meticulous and clean. Monsieur Harlan.
Your Majesty.
Please, here, just call me Ardent. I was never meant to be king, and I never liked it. May I ask, what afflicts you? You look so weak and frail. I am afraid to carry you.
That is a long story that we're going to have to get into.
Of course. Right this way. And he takes a sharp right, and the rest of you follow as you stroll past old paintings of an ancient family. You can't help but notice that he tries to quickly walk past one in particular. And you see the little nameplate at the bottom that says Ardent de Lyon. And you look up at the painting, and you see this beautiful young man with fiery red hair, fiery red eyes, the same ones that greeted you just moments ago. This young man, human in the portrait, looks to have a sheepish expression, as if he's incredibly uncomfortable. But nonetheless, the painting is of royal standard and beautiful.
Excusez-moi, Your Majesty, but are you aware of what has befallen your kingdom out there?
He slows down a bit, but continues to walk ahead of you. Yes, Poppy has informed me of a general idea of the state of things, and of a new queendom, I believe.
I believe that we should sit before we tell you the rest of what we have discovered.
Yes, right this way. And he opens a pair of heavy doors, and sunlight streams in from a beautiful dining hall. A grand table at its center, with dozens of identical chairs intricately carved lining it. As he settles Harlan down, and he pulls aside 2 chairs and gestures at Vianne and Poppy.
Poppy takes the seat, but anxiously looks over both Vianne and her uncle.
We can eat. There's time to eat.
Lovely, amazing. Wait here. I shall be right back. Any preferences? I don't have much. Lots of fruit preserves and vegetables and a bit of bread that I've baked, but anything in particular?
I'm sure whatever you bring will be more than okay. Thank you for your kind hospitality.
Yes, of course. I shall leave you to it then. And he takes one last glance at the 3 of you, and you see an expression on his face like he's scared that if he leaves the room and he comes back, you won't be there. As he walks away slowly and smiles and nods and disappears behind the servant's door, leaving the 3 of you to yourselves.
Well, I quite like him.
It seems as though he has forgotten all manner of court decorum in his 300 years of isolation.
Can you blame him?
When I look at him, I see my king. Even as he is now.
I just see a young man trying his best to muddle through. But maybe they're the same thing.
We should ask for what we need before we give him what he wants. But Poppy, that is for you to decide.
I think he needs the full story. He is so angry and so passionate about reclaiming what's his, but he doesn't know what it will bring. That has to be explained to him.
Now, I am very curious what this bread is going to be like.
Well, I just hope he's a better baker than he is a comedian.
He's a comedian now.
Don't bring it up.
Right on cue, the servants' doors open once more. In a very comically small white apron, Ardent reemerges. The apron is stark contrast to the royal red and gold that he's wearing underneath. He sweeps his way past with 2 large plates with cloches on them. And he hums as he strides along, and he places them right on the table. And he looks at the 3 of you expectantly with a smile on his face. And then he lifts the cloches, and you find on these plates a variety of toasted bread, cured meats, and fruit preserves in little bowls with little knives, as well as a pot of tea and several cups. He puts out his hand and he gestures at the plates and he says, "Bon appetit." And as he does so, he whisks his way as you curiously watch him walk all the way to the other end of the table, where you do notice, in fact, there's a very large chair, much larger than the others. And he walks for a little longer than is comfortable. And then he sits on this massive chair and he looks down at the 3 of you. And another 2 seconds go by before he slaps the arms on the chair and he gets back up and he strides his way back down. Another 9 seconds of him walking past as he pulls up a seat next to the 3 of you.
Yeah, that would have been rather lonely, sitting all the way over there.
Old habits. Apologies. I don't even think about it sometimes.
Could have just picked 3 seats that were closer to that.
Yeah, we could. If you want us to move over there.
No. You are comfortable here. It's no problem. I just never realized how small these chairs are. And he fidgets a little.
Just right. This looks wonderful.
It does.
Allow me. Vian breaks the tension by resuming a posture of gracious hospitality as she begins to pour the tea for all of them, starting, of course, with His Royal Majesty, and then Poppy, the guest of honor, Harlan, and then herself. And she waits for gracious royal permission to sit down. Which maybe he has forgotten how to indicate.
He looks at Vian with a quizzical look on his face. Oh, yes, please, yes, you may be seated, yes.
Poppy, who is already seated, starts to begin to sweat in a very nervous way and quickly drops all of her cutlery and puts both hands in her lap, possibly thinking maybe there's a cue to eat as well.
Nope, no decorum here, just please dig in, please. All the food is for you. I baked the bread myself. I baked that this morning, actually, along with putting a kettle on for the tea. The preserves are from last spring, I believe, and I have a variety of apricots, pear, apple, and strawberry.
Ah.
Oh, the meat. Yes, you must be wondering. You see...
No, I was. Yeah, I certainly was wondering where the meat is coming from.
Yes, no, the wild boar from the royal forest. They have made their way into the city. That happens a couple years after the curse, and they have found their way to breaking into the royal gardens. Now, I have quartered off the bastards to make sure they don't interfere with my gardens, but they do roam there on occasion, and I am able to traverse there, so I hunt them.
Wow.
Look at you. Sorry, that came off in a way that I did not mean to.
No, I understand. You should see my crossbow collection. It's quite fine.
Poppy's eyes actually do light up at the mention of a crossbow collection, but she just spreads some apricot preserves over the bread and begins to eat.
Poppy, not with your hands.
Please, with your hands, please. Oh. We are all friends here. Please, I assure you, it's all right. Please, just eat. Please, I insist.
Caught between basically her governess and the king of an old nation, Poppy kind of stutters with the bread in her hands. I'll let someone else go first then.
Harlan gestures to Ardant to have him commence the eating to make everyone comfortable.
Oh, yes, of course, fine. And he grabs a handful of pieces of toast, and there's still plenty left, and he just shoves them into his mouth very quickly. He chews, and there's crumbs all over his snout, and he chews with his mouth open. And he does this for a few seconds until he looks at the three of you staring at him, and then he closes his mouth slowly.
Allons-y, comme le roi. And Vian takes a bite of bread and shoves it in her mouth with her hand, as the king.
As she bites down, she feels its fluffy texture, its just right sweetness, and the crusty, crunchy outside. It is from a perfect loaf of bread, and it is absolutely delicious.
This bread, my goodness, Your Majesty, this is... I suppose you had a lot of practice.
Yes, I'm sure Poppy has told you about me, but a couple 100 years will do that. He leans forward, and his expression gets a little more serious. Perhaps we start with the easy one. What happened to my people?
Vian delicately lays the bread knife and fork opposite each other on the plate. On the night of the curse, all the citizens of Artois were transformed into creatures like yourself, Maudit. But the descendants of Maudit, with human ancestry, became something different. Beastkin.
I see. And you are Beastkin?
Yes. Born inside the boundaries of your kingdom, actually.
Oh, where from?
Just across the bay, Your Majesty.
By Lake Adele?
You know it.
Yes, I used to summer there with my father. It was a long, long time ago, of course, but yes, no, I know of it. Excellent fishing there.
Quite. I knew many of the fishermen myself. The curse is different among Beastkin than Maudit, you see, Your Highness. Beastkin populate differently than The new science of genetics would imply.
The science of apologies?
Yes. Magicians have discovered quite a bit about the world now.
Understood. You can gloss over that. I will catch up.
The curse spreads very rapidly. It takes only one drop of Modit with one drop of human to express itself as fully beastkin for all the rest of their progeny.
Humans could theoretically be replaced. Seems cause for alarm, I would presume.
You could say. But, as Poppy could tell you better herself, having experienced both, there are pros and cons to being a beastkin.
Ah, yes. And now I suppose we get to the heart of the matter here. Poppy, I have noticed that you can be both. Is that common?
Well, before it was always random and extremely painful. It was actually just recently that I was able to turn back human on will.
Are there others like you?
There was once when she's no longer with us.
I see. Hunted because she was different, perhaps?
Hunted because she had the ability to lift this curse. Just as I do.
By Queen Inga.
Yes.
She knew that this one could break the curse, and so she took the steps necessary to prevent that from happening.
Of course.
There are a group of soldiers under her command that she has given special privileges and powers to.
Powers? In what way?
Ability to bend the elements, to move life force to a degree.
And how do you know this, monsieur?
I am one.
He blinks at Harlan and glances at Poppy and Vianne. Monsieur, how did you come to acquire these powers?
I asked for them.
And how did she give them to you?
Well, she wasn't there personally. There is a ritual, an exchange of mortal blood for something else.
At this, he turns away. Of course. Blood Knights. I shouldn't be surprised. He turns back at Harlan. Let me piece this together. You have betrayed your oath in some capacity, and now you are feeling its ill effects, yes?
That is precisely correct, Your Majesty.
Yes, my father sired a few Blood Knights in his day, and I once witnessed what happened to a man when he betrays his oath. My condolences. I imagine it's incredibly painful. All right, so you, monsieur, are Blood Knights of Queen Inga, who carries the god soul of Hercent the She-Wolf. And now you are suffering its ill effects. I imagine you have not that much time to live. You need to be saved, sir. Your blood needs to be purified.
Purified?
Can that be done?
Yes, of course. Anyone with a god soul can do this. Oh, admittedly, I've never done it myself, but theoretically I would be able to, should the curse be lifted and my magic be released.
Poppy stands up, an energy in her that hadn't been there before. Is there any way to do it without lifting the curse?
His eyes narrow. Poppy, why would you not want to lift the curse?
She takes a glance at Vianne, and then one at the ring that's on her own hand. There is something out there preying on one of your downfalls, hoping that a god soul is released so it can join us on this plane.
I'm sorry. Am I to understand that you would condemn me to 300 more years of isolation because of a fear? Of what? Of who?
Well, as far as I understand it, it's another god soul.
of someone with the ability to turn a normal girl into a beastkin.
His shoulders slouch a little. He calms himself as he breathes deep. Oh, Reynard. He's still at it.
What do you know of him?
Ardent sits back down in an armchair, and his brow scrunches, and he places a palm to cover his face. Ugh. In my father's reign, he was a nuisance, in a variety of ploys to try and escape into the material world. Most of them half-baked, you understand, but nevertheless, he would cause all sorts of mischief in my kingdom.
Mischief.
Your Majesty, I beg you, please tell me anything you know of him.
He is a trickster god. Takes the appearance of a fox, usually red. And he likes to coerce people into doing things for his own benefit. Namely, that he wants to come into the material world. You seem very knowledgeable, but I suspect you do not know quite the full story, do you?
I would be much obliged if you could tell us.
And he sits back, stares into the fire, and you see the joy in his face harden as he turns to the three of you, and he says coldly, I see no reason to divulge anymore, considering that you will not give me what I want. I simply ask to be free. If you are scared of Reynard the Fox, I shall have you know that I laugh at that stupid being. Immensely weak compared to Noble the Lion, I fear nothing from him.
Vienne stands up, propriety be damned. She addresses the king full on, as if he were a peer, because right now, his god soul is still shackled. Could you destroy him?
Ardent places his hands on the arms of the chair and slowly lifts himself up, a towering figure. And he walks slowly up to Vienne and stares down at her. And he leans down completely. I shall send him back to where he belongs. Poppy, should you lift the curse, I would have the ability to heal your uncle. And in doing so, he should retain the powers that have been bequeathed to him and access to the wondrous sea. And whatever god it is that he had sworn his oath to, that would remain. A gift from me to you. Please, I beg of you.
But could it hurt him again? If he's tied to her still after all of this?
No. That's not how this works. Monsieur Harlan is not tied to a queen. He is tied to her scent, the she-wolf, the ice mother, the pack leader.
Your Majesty, can I ask how you came to be bound to your god soul?
From my father, upon his passing, as has been the case for hundreds of years.
Do you know how it began?
No, sadly I do not.
I know how it began with, you say, Tuvi?
Princess Tuvstar, yes. But I always called her Tuvi.
I know how it began with her. We were shown it. Her relationship with, her scent is, contentious.
Yes, I am aware. She told me.
Oh, she did?
He looks off through a window. She did, yes. Right before she threatened to curse my entire kingdom. And this he has a wary smile on his face. She asked me for help, and I thought I was doing the right thing by sparing the lives of my countrymen. How was I to know that she would condemn all of them to a horrific fate? I did not know. I did not know she was capable of that.
Not to question your connection, your knowledge, but do you think it's possible you might similarly be underestimating the fox?
Bold words. But I suppose I shouldn't be surprised that they come from a dying man. I have nothing to fear from Reynard the Fox.
I just want to make sure you're looking at this clear-headedly, that's all. I know. No, I don't know. I can try to imagine how lonely these centuries have been for you. But you're a leader. Think of what else could happen. What worse could happen if you're wrong.
He turns his head and looks at Poppy. Why did you come here? Why would you come here just to give me hope? Why? Are you that cruel? After everything? Why would you do this to me?
There's a tear that slips down Poppy's cheek. And then she shakes her head. I think I am a little cruel. I don't have anywhere else to go. I'm being hunted. My own family disowned me after this. And my uncle and Veering here are the only people in this world who care about me anymore. I don't want to abuse your power, but he's the most important thing in the world to me. And if there was a chance I could save him by coming here, I would be labeled as the cruelest person to ever live to do that.
Bian sees the tears coming down Poppy's cheeks and her heart breaks. And out of that break comes pouring rage. This impotent king, this man-child who's been festering away for centuries with no more maturity than the day he was trapped here. You dare insult her. Ardent, look at this face, this one face that has offered you kindness. And you hurt her?
Silence fills the room. Carmen, I want you to give me a persuasion check with advantage.
+0, baby.
The first one is a natural 19. And the second one is a natural 17. So that's a 19.
The lion looks back up at Poppy's face, and he stares deep into her eyes. And then the tears begin to flow. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, that was rude of me. I don't want to be here anymore. Please. I'm sorry. I'm not myself. I'm sorry. I understand your trepidation. I understand that you do not know what you are up against. I still believe myself to be right. In my full power, I have nothing to fear of Reynard the Fox. But I understand. You have been kind to me, Poppy. You have given me hope and company, and if you are not willing to lift the curse so that I can cure your uncle, then there is another way that I may help him. I've only seen my father do it once, and it nearly killed him. But I can replace his blood with mine. This would allow him to retain the powers of a paladin. Whatever oath he swore to, whatever god it was, renewed and preserved. But it would come at great risk to myself. I can do this for you, because you have been kind to me. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, God. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Your Majesty, if you were free, what would you do?
I pride myself. I've always prided myself on never lying to those I find important. And I shall not start now. If I were free, I would fly to Tuvi, and I would rip her heart out and burn everything she holds dear to the ground. And I would reclaim my kingdom and see my people restored to greatness, to power, to strength, to stability. I would be a good king again.
In doing so, you would kill thousands.
The one thing you learn when you are a ruler is that you must look at the greater picture, and that to be a good king, one cannot be a good person. We must make the hard decisions that more may prosper.
I think you are a mistaken fool, King Ardon.
He turns his head. He doesn't look at any of you in the eye. Mademoiselle Poppy, I have given you my offer of a gift. You are free to take it or leave it, but I must insist that if you do not take it, that you leave the castle immediately.
Poppy takes a step towards him, and then another, and she kneels in front of him and tries to grab one of his hands in both of hers.
He lets her.
I'm sorry. I don't want to condemn you to a life here. But I, very much like you, wouldn't risk your countrymen to help Tuvi all those years ago. I can't risk thousands of others for you to fulfill your revenge. I am so grateful for the gift you are offering. Please, will you save my uncle? And she will rest her forehead on his hand that she's clutching, very much in a bowing position.
Ardon takes a moment, and he doesn't look at her, staring into the fire. And then he turns his head, takes his other hand, and he rests it on Poppy's shoulder. Yes, I will do this for you. I am grateful for the company, and I should hope that in the future you shall return and visit. Thank you.
I will. That's my promise to you. I will come back.
All right. Come with me, monsieur, this way. I shall lead you to the ritual chamber.
Poppy, are you sure about this? What if he dies?
We'll do everything we can to keep him stable. But your history, Vian, and everyone who loves their culture and loves being a beastkin, I can't sacrifice that just as much as I can't sacrifice all the people he will kill for his revenge.
You gotta think about a world without him, but with Reynard.
Okay, we'll do what we must. It's one step at a time, isn't it? We'll get Harlan better. We'll get him better. We'll keep Ardon alive. We must keep him alive. Reynard can use his death.
I hope it doesn't come to that.
No.
Pip-Pop, it is okay to let me go. It is.
Call me selfish, Uncle Harlan, or naive, or childish. But it is not your time. It can't be.
It was my time a long time ago. This is all borrowed.
You promised you would keep me safe. And I'm holding you to that.
Is this the best way to keep you safe?
I don't know.
The three of you are led by a solemn and quiet Ardon as you make your way through well-kept but old rooms, well-furnished, meticulously decorated. And you pass through a variety of colors, violets, reds, emeralds, blues, and you ascend stairs higher and higher until you finally get close to the top of one of the many spires of Castle Artois. Ardon leads you to a set of double doors made of iron. And with great force and a grunt, he pushes against them. And the doors open. Silence fills a beautifully decorated hall of brilliant gold, rubies, and emeralds. Massive chandeliers hang from intricately carved ceilings. Huge paintings of kings line the walls from floor to ceiling, giving a sense of grandeur to the space. Their eyes seemingly following anyone who walks past. The floors are alternating colors of wood laid out onto geometric patterns, echoing as footsteps fall. It is warm, hot, as the ritual requires. A dais sits in the middle of the room, where the Sun King beckons.
All right, Your Majesty. Let's do this.
All right. As I'm sure you know, it was quite painful the first time, and it will be just as painful this time. Are you ready, monsieur?
I'm ready.
Madame Vienne, Poppy, may we have your assistance?
Of course.
Whatever you need.
He walks up to a little table where an ornate box sits, inlaid with gold and gems. And he clicks the lock open and lifts the lid. When he turns back around, in both of his hands are two gorgeous daggers, gold and silver, with rubies for pommels. And he walks over to each of you, and he hands you a dagger each. You will need to be very quick. And the more holes you put in both of us, the faster this goes. Do you understand?
Poppy, you don't have to if you can't. It's...
No. I have to be the one. And Poppy moves to stand closer to Harlan.
He is your uncle. I understand. We all understand if you'd rather be with me and Madame Vienne with Harlan.
No.
It's all right. You don't have to.
I want to.
All right. Up on the dais, everyone. And he leads you up an elevated dais. You look down and you can see carved lines throughout the dais, all leading to a central spot. Ardent points to that spot and says, Monsieur, if you would kindly...
Harlan nods and walks to the spot, his mind racing back to the last time he was on such a dais.
Madame Vienne, I trust you know what to do, yes? Or do I need to make it more clear?
I'm not a hunter. I'm not skilled with a blade. You must show me where it will hurt you.
Of course. And he grabs your wrists, holding the dagger. And he points it underneath his armpits, and the sides of his neck, and in his inner thighs, just below his groin. These 6 will bleed the heaviest. You must nick them first. You don't have to be deep, you just have to be fast.
Vienne nods at the king and then looks back to Poppy with wide eyes. If you can't do it, Poppy...
Though her hands are shaking and there are undeniable tears rolling down her face, she wouldn't trust anyone else with this particular role.
All right. This part never gets easy, Ardent says as he unbuttons his shirt, removes it and throws it off to the side. And he steps onto the opposite side of the dais as Harlan, and he beckons Vienne over. Harlan and Ardent stand facing each other as he gestures for Poppy and Vienne to step in front of both of them. Poppy and Vienne's backs touching. Ardent closes his eyes and he breathes deep. Are you ready, monsieur?
Harlan smiles at Poppy. Yeah, I'm ready.
Ardent lifts his arms up. Begin!
Poppy brings one hand to the back of Uncle Arlen's neck, cradling just the base of his skull, and very quietly whispers, "Stay with me," and begins.
moving in synchronous motion with Poppy, like a coordinated ballet like they have done this before. Vian stares wide-eyed into the towering king and begins to stab at him, not with practice, but with desperation. At each of the 6 places that he marked, she moves quickly with this gorgeous blade until she can feel and smell the heat of his blood, one hand moving with the knife and the other hand already preparing magic to save him from death.
The blood itself does not scare Poppy. She's sliced countless animals up in her time and has had her hands drenched far more than she could ever wash off. But her uncle's faltering form in her hands and the ragged breaths leaving her chest are enough to scar her for life.
Silence fills the room, save for the grunts of the 2 men, as they both collapse onto their knees onto the dais. Vian and Poppy quickly move out of the way as they see the blood draining from both men. The blood of one flows from the little crevices and nooks in the dais, from one man to the other. And then the screams begin. Both men howl out in pain. And it is a feeling that Harlan never thought that he would feel again. He can feel the fiery, hot blood entering into his body. His vision whites out, and the screams fade. And all of a sudden, he hears the sound of birds, and the rustling of leaves, and the giggling of a child. As a young lad, not 10 winters old, with fiery red hair, laughs and runs away from him, turning to gaze behind to see if the old man is following.
No, hold on. Don't go running off. You know I can't keep up with you if you run that fast. Oh!
You gotta catch up. Come on, keep up. Come on.
All right. What would you like to play? Would you like to play hide and seek today or tag? Please say hide and seek.
Fine. I guess we'll play hide and seek. I'm hiding. All right, you gotta go to that tree. You gotta count to 100.
I'm going to count to 20.
25.
25. You drive a hard bargain. 25 it is.
Go.
The old man goes to the tree, turns his face to the trunk dutifully, and counts to 25.
And as he does so, he hears the uncontrollable giggling of a child as he stays, unfortunately for him, so close by.
All right, ready or not, here I come. Could he be behind this tree? And he peeks behind a tree that he knows the child is not behind. No? Oh, so clever, so quick. No, not there. Maybe up in these branches? No. Where could he possibly be? Now that is unusual. A giggling bush. What a fascinating specimen. I must look at it closer. Oh, what's this? This bush has feet? What? Oh my goodness, and little arms too? And a mop of red hair. What? Why, it is... Yes, it is. It's little Cyril.
Ah, you found me.
No. Master Cyril, you're going to have to do better than that if you're going to be a huntsman someday.
I will. Just you wait. I'll be the best huntsman that Ardenal has ever seen.
I have no doubt. Never lose that laugh, huh? It's one of the best parts of you.
The vision whites out again, and Harlan is staring up at a gorgeous ceiling with a massive golden chandelier above him. His body is on fire. Flames alighting in his bloodstream as the screams of both him and the Sun King ring out and echo throughout these halls. Vienne and Poppy take a step back, their mouths agape.
Vienne knows what it means. If the king dies, Reynard is unleashed. She whispers under her breath repeatedly the magic to spare the dying over and over again. She can see that he is dying. She can see that Harlan is dying, but she can't look at him. She knows that this god soul has to stay.
The screams are so loud, and for a moment, Poppy has to make sure that they're not coming from herself. And slowly, on both hands and knees, she crawls over to where Uncle Harlan lay, thrashing, and tries her best to soothe him.
The vision whites out again, and Harlan opens his eyes again to find himself spinning and spinning in a beautiful ballroom. His dance partner in a gorgeous green dress, her hair much darker than he's used to seeing her. This disguise of hers is, by design, incredibly alluring. Her face scrunches as they circle around the dance floor, their feet in sync with the music and each other. Damn it, Lagarde. I can't see the target. Where is he?
What? Sorry.
The target, Lagarde. Can you see him? I lost him.
Oh, yes, there, up on the... He's entering the upstairs bedroom now.
God, get it together, Lagarde. What is wrong with you?
Sorry, I was just a little distracted for a moment.
Okay. All right, if he's going up, we have to do this now, okay? I'm going to pull an Aurora, okay? I'm going to pull an Aurora in 3, 2, and then she faints or pretends to faint in his arms. Her left hand going up to her head as she makes a swooning noise.
Oh my goodness, no, I need some help. Please, somebody.
3 men rush to your aid as you look around and you see that all eyes are on her and none are on you.
Just a little too good at that. He makes his way up the stairs to the just closed door.
He peeks in and then he sees a man back turned, furiously rifling through a desk looking for something. And almost on cue, he makes a little yelp of victory as he holds up a scroll with a seal on it. And even from this distance, even in the dark, you can tell this is a forged seal of the Queen.
There is a single lamp lighting this room, and with a deft move of his hand, he snuffs it.
The vision whites out. Harlan is staring at the floor on this dais, and he feels hands on him, Poppy's hands, as he looks up.
Even in this moment, he manages a small smile and a weak, but he hopes reassuring squeeze of her hand.
Don't make too much movement, okay? Conserve your strength.
His vision whites out once more, and he can hear the sound of rain. A torrential downpour on a gloomy, dark night as a crowd gathers round, dressed in black, crying over a casket. And there's a woman, brilliant, bright blonde hair, striking blue eyes, fully pregnant in a mourning dress. She steps up to the casket and she collapses on her knees. And her family rushes to her and they hold her arm and they rub her back, but she's inconsolable. And she screams out, "Arlo, you promised me you'd go back." She slams her fist onto the coffin.
He thinks, not this one, not this memory. And then he slips into the history of the memory. A nondescript figure, her face in the crowd. And he was expecting the grief. He was expecting this to be hard. He was not expecting that bump in her belly. That shocks him. And for a moment he is unable to think, unable to process what he is seeing. but only for a moment. And he does what he resolved to do in the first place. He stays, he watches until her family brings her home, and he turns and leaves the town.
And the memory whites out once more. Now, back to this magnificent room. He no longer hears the Sun King's screams. As the man lays on all fours, his face downwards, breathing heavy now. And something is wrong. Matt, I'm going to roll a d20. The DC for this is 5. I am rolling to see if Ardon will die from this ritual. If he gets a 5 or below, he will die.
Kenny, I want to make it clear before you make that roll that Arlo knows how important it is that Ardon survive, and he's willing to do whatever it takes to make sure that happens, even if it means sacrificing his own chance at living.
Okay, Matt. If Ardon fails this roll, Arlo will die. He rolled a 17.
Holy shit.
Seeing him weak on the ground, Arlo starts to move to reinforce him, ready to give everything to keep this Modit alive.
The massive lion man peeks his head up to Harlan, to Arlo. And he raises a paw. No! I'm fine. I'm fine. We continue.
Small half smile appears on Arlo's face. We continue.
And in what seems to be an eternity, the pain continues until the fire in his veins calms into a magnificent warmth as Harlan feels a renewed vigor. He stands up on his feet, and Poppy with him, as he gazes now at the ceiling, and he feels the strength return to his body. All points of exhaustion are cleared. He takes a long rest. And in the back of his mind, he sees, at the same time as what's in front of him, a vision of a frozen lake and of a wolf with black fur tied down by chains. And he feels the heat from his body begin to weaken the chains. And then the vision is gone. Harlan now stands tall once more.
He immediately looks to where our daunt is. Your Majesty. Your Majesty.
The wounds begin to seal on Harlan. He can see them begin to heal on Ardon. The man is no longer bleeding, but he is covered in blood, just as Harlan is. He stumbles to try and get to his feet, and then he collapses onto his back.
Poppy shoots over to him, now seeing that Uncle Harlan is standing perfectly fine. And quickly, her hands glowing with the very familiar huntsman magic, press to his chest as she tries her best to cure wounds Ardon.
And as she does so, right before she can say the ancient words for the spell, he gasps. And he looks down, and Poppy looks down, and in his chest is a glowing dark red tendril. Blood seeps down and soaks his fur. He clutches at it, and he looks at Poppy, and then in an instant he is pulled back and dragged on the floor. As the three of you look up, you see a purple portal on the far side of the room, and the tendril pulling him back. It widens, and it widens, and it widens, and you hear a sickening otherworldly growl as a face of a fox emerges from the portal. One paw emerging, several tendrils of a tail follow, the other paw reaching out, and as they do, you see its flesh turn to stone. And as it moves, the stone cracks and breaks and falls to the ground. You see its open flesh begin to heal and regenerate back into fur as it is turned back into stone immediately. As it struggles its two front paws out of the portal and now trying to pull itself out as it grasps the Sun King. And it roars out. No words, just a primordial roar as it reaches out with its three other tendrils and it lashes out at each of you. Roll for initiative.
Oh no.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I rolled a natural 20.
Yeah!
Let's go.
+6 for 26.
Go, Carmen! I rolled a natural 1!
Why do we keep doing that?
Oh my god. And that is actually going to be a 2 total after the exhaustion.
Harlan rolled a 16 plus 4 for a 20 initiative.
Ardant rolled a 12. Reynard the Fox rolled a 3. But he does attack you first, as 3 tendrils lash out of this portal that's getting bigger by the second. One of them turns to stone and crumbles before it can reach Poppy. But the other 2, he rolls a 10 for Harlan and a 17 for Vianne.
Ooh. Yeah, that hits hard. That's personal.
Vianne takes 9 points of damage. As the monster roars, its face melting flesh and stone as it fights off the curse of Artois, and it resists it with all of its might, desperate to kill the Sun King for good and enter this world at last. It is Poppy's turn.
I have a feeling I'm going to regret this. Poppy, with intense speed, leaps over the altar in the center of the dais, landing right next to Ardant on the ground, and placing a hand on his shoulder, she casts Long Strider. As the greenish energy flows out of her hand and surrounds his legs, enhancing them with a speed that he hasn't known before.
He gasps as this power enters him, but then he winces as the tendril is still impaling him through the chest as he fights and struggles to get out of it.
Get yourself out and run as fast as you can. And Poppy is going to stay there as a human shield until he goes.
It is Harlan's turn.
Harlan calls out, "Gotta keep him off our dog," and runs forward next to the beleaguered king and laying a hand onto the giant lion man's shoulder. "You took one for me, I'll take one for you," and casts Warding Bond onto Ardant. Ardant gets a +1 to AC and resistance to all damage.
Thank you, friend. Help me out of this thing. Reynard turns its raw, festering head towards Harlan, filled with rage, as it takes a legendary action and it bites Harlan.
Ooh.
That is a 17 on the attack.
That's not gonna be enough, bastard. Interposing his blade between himself and the monstrous fox coming through the portal. He is able to deflect the monster's head just enough that it brushes harmlessly past it.
It is now Ardant's turn. The massive Maudit man grabs the tendril from behind his back and he pulls with all of his strength. The DC to escape this grapple is 15. Ardant rolls a 17.
Yes!
Let's go.
All right.
As he escapes the grapple and he yanks the tendril out of him. He heeds his now companions, and he dashes away from Reynard. But Reynard takes an attack of opportunity. That's a 15 on the attack, and it does not hit Ardal. As he deftly dodges out of the way as the tendril whips back at the spot he just was at, and he scrambles to his feet, and he dashes. It is now Reynard's turn, as the vicious monster pulls a little more of its torso out of the portal, and it glances at Poppy. There is a moment where Poppy can feel disappointment turn into fury as it attacks Poppy with its massive jaw. A tentacle swings at Harlan, but now full of renewed energy. The blood of the Sun King flowing through his veins. He deftly steps out of the way as one of the tentacles slams onto the floor, cracking the stone underneath. And as he does so, he underestimates the guile and the wit of this trickster god. In a flash, another tendril comes, and it whips by, and it strikes him across the face for a critical hit.
Oh.
Harlan takes 15 points of damage. Simultaneously, the massive jaws of this god open, and they strike at Poppy faster than she can imagine. He rolls a 26 on the attack.
That hits.
Its huge teeth sink into Poppy's shoulder as she yelps out in pain as it releases again. And Poppy takes 20 points of damage.
On a non-crit?
Oh.
Oh boy. Okay.
The creature roars out once more, blood seeping from its teeth. It is now Vianne's turn.
You son of a bitch! Isn't it a joy to meet you in person? I would love to tear your throat out with my own hands, but I'm afraid we have other places to be. Vianne knocks Poppy aside with a bonus action telekinetic shove from her mage hand. And this is unwilling movement, so it won't proc an opportunity attack. And seeing that Harlan has triumphed, but his fury, this creature is bearing down on Harlan, whose soul we have just wrested from the jaws of defeat. Vianne comes in with all of her speed, next to Harlan, staring down at this face that she has seen in her nightmares. And with pride welling into tears in her eyes, she grabs Harlan right around his chest. You are so strong. And she takes him 90 feet down the apse of this chapel. I'll see you in hell, son of a bitch. And she casts Thunderstep. That is a con saving throw, DC 15. And Poppy is just outside of the Thunder's range.
Reynard rolls a 10, but uses a legendary resistance to succeed anyways.
Don't worry, there's plenty more where that came from. And the resonant thunder of Vianne's fury as she stares at this monster leaves a gaping hole in the flesh that is turning into stone as he stands there.
Light flashes and wisps of steam from the wondrous sea can be seen as these two move in an instant, leaving behind destructive, thunderous boom that cracks the stone underneath it, and it shatters against Reynard's face.
This god thinks he has tricks up his sleeve, but Guile is no match for Fury. He still takes 9 thunder damage as Vianne and Harlan teleport to safety.
It roars out in pain as it rears its massive head. At the end of the turn, it regains a bit of its sense, and it uses a legendary action to teleport.
Oof.
It is not within full control. Most of its body is not in the material world yet. It is going to roll a d20. The DC for this is 15. If it succeeds, it will teleport wherever it wants to go. If it fails, it will teleport to a random location. He rolled an 18. You see this purple portal behind it warp in the air. This massive creature begins to smoke a deep, black, opaque steam from its body. And in a moment's blink, it teleports, portal and all, 60 feet ahead to Ardon. It is now Poppy's turn.
The portal begins to shimmer in color to a bright green one as Poppy casts Hunter's Mark as a bonus action and quickly knocks her arrow, one that she hasn't used yet, with a pristinely crafted tip made of pure silver, and aims it directly in the back of this god's head. 13 to hit. I would like to use my heroic inspiration to reroll that. The natural 18 plus 8.
Yes.
For a 26 to hit.
A 26 hits. Roll for damage.
7 on the longbow, plus 4 for 11. And then the Hunter's Mark does a bonus for 1. 12 damage total.
The arrow flies through the air, and it finds its mark. Lucas's special arrowhead that he made just for Poppy strikes this creature right in its eye, and it screams out in pain. The creature is furious as it takes a legendary action to bite Ardon. That's a natural 20. Come on. And the creature opens its gaping maw. Saliva and blood mixing and dripping onto the floor. Before Ardon can run out of its grasp, it bites down, encompassing most of his body as he screams out in pain. The creature lifts its head up. He shakes his head violently left and right before slamming the Sun King down onto the floor as he rolled a 49 for damage. But with resistance, Ardon only takes 24.
At the same time, Harlan's bond that he created with the king has him share the damage, and Harlan also takes 24 points of damage. Harlan is driven to his knees in a mirrored image of the king.
Harlan! Harlan! Stand up!
It is now Harlan's turn.
He reaches his hand to his chest, and a gentle blue light encompasses him as he casts Cure Wounds. That is a really good roll. For 18 points of healing.
The light encompasses him as the wounds that appeared out of thin air from the shared bond begin to seal themselves, and he gets back upon his feet.
He lays on hands himself for an additional 15 hit points.
He feels this light within him as he feels his blood light on fire. He feels the biting, cooling wind of Hercent the she-wolf enveloping around him as it heals his wounds even further.
He shouts out to the monstrous fox, flashing his ring, a gift from this being. I bet you wish you'd kept one of these for yourself, don't you? As he runs over behind a column, trying to draw the monster away from the king.
It is now Ardon's turn. He gets back up on his feet, and he turns around and glances at the creature behind him. Pride flashes across Ardon's eyes as he clenches his fists, ready to strike at this monster. But he thinks better of it. And he knows that in this form, constantly turning to stone, constantly regenerating, this creature, this god, is on a short timer. It will have to make a choice of whether it chooses to continue to fight or flee from Artois. He's going to take that chance. He disengages, and he uses a bonus action to dash. With Longstrider, he will dash 80 feet away from the creature. The end of his turn, Reynard, furious, salivating, bleeding, dropping bits of broken stone as they crumble off of his body, uses a legendary action to teleport. Once again, the DC is 15. If he doesn't succeed, it will be a random location. He rolled a 14, and it loses its turn.
Yes!
I'm now going to roll my beloved D100. That is going to determine which space within these 100 by 100 foot squares that he lands. That is a 96. And that places him right next to Vianne.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
As once more, black smoke erupts from this figure, and the portal follows along with it and opens up next to Vianne.
oh, I'm flattered that you would come to say hello. How do you do, Reynard? Woga Malum. And as Vianne utters the words, a shadow engulfs around her, taking the visage of her own face and stepping in front of her as she grips the ruby hilt of Ardant's dagger, smeared with her own tears to provide the component for summon Shadow Spawn. As this monstrous creature, looking very much like a mirror image of herself and of Reynard, stands between them. And then, praying, with a bonus action, she attempts to create a little space between them. It needs to make a DC 15 strength saving throw or be pushed 5 feet back.
Reynard the Fox rolls a 13.
Get fucked. And as the thing is pushed back between them, the Shadow Spawn steps into a protective space in between Vianne and Reynard, and immediately taking its turn after Vianne, this shadow screams. It needs to make a DC 15 wisdom saving throw.
Reynard the Fox rolls an 8.
Yes!
Nice.
Yes! See how you like it! See how you like it! Feel me in your mind! Feel me bring you to terror! And it's now frightened of this little image of Vianne standing before it, and it can't come closer willingly, bitch.
The end of Vianne's turn, the creature screams out as it takes a legendary action and it bites at the shadow in front of it. Reynard the Fox rolls a 15 and a 2. Plus 7 is a 9, as both attacks miss.
See what fear does to you.
It is now Poppy's turn.
As Reynard teleports once again and these portals begin opening around him, they crackle with that same green energy like a true hunter stalking its prey. But at this point, there is a more ferocious pulsing in the air as it does so, and Poppy will use her bonus action to use Planar Warrior as she knocks another arrow, this one not silver-tipped, but still fiercely aimed in his direction. That is a 9 plus 8 for a 17 to hit.
Reynard's natural armor class is 17. Roll for damage.
For 7 on the longbow, then another 4 for the Planar Warrior, and then the Hunter's Mark is a 6 for 17 damage.
Let's go! The arrow flies true, and it pierces the side of his mouth, and it shatters one of his teeth inside as it screams out and glares at Poppy. And at the end of Poppy's turn, it tries once more to use a legendary action to teleport. The DC is 15. It rolls a natural 1, and it loses its turn.
Oh my gosh.
It is now Harlan's turn.
Oh, he wants so badly to punch this thing in the face, but like the king, he thinks better of it. He's going to move down to be protected by the fear that Vianne's shadow is causing, and he's going to stare at him and smile and use a channel divinity to put visions of hundreds of Rymordans cutting off his path wherever he turns. He needs to make a wisdom save of 15.
Reynard the Fox rolls a 3.
Wow.
Oh, that's so good.
He cannot move more than 30 feet away from me.
For the first time, this creature has fear in its eye. It tries futilely to paw its way backwards, but cannot move.
Harlan smiles and pulls out his pistol, leveling at its giant head, and pulls the trigger for an 18 to hit.
An 18 hits. Roll for damage.
That's a 6 on the die for 10 damage.
As Harlan levels his pistol, he puts this fox right in his sights. It's like breathing to him. As the shot fires off, and it finds its mark, striking the creature right between the eyes, as it rears its head and it roars in pain. Using one of its legendary actions, it is going to try and bite at the shadow in front of it at disadvantage. And Reynard the Fox rolls an 11.
It passes through like hands through smoke.
It is now Ardant's turn. As the Lionkin man turns around, he sees Harlan, Vianne, and Poppy. And he stops in his tracks, several dozen feet away, and he just smiles in awe of 3 individuals fighting a god. It is now Reynard's turn. This creature now knows that it doesn't have a chance, as the stone rapidly forms around its body, faster than it can regenerate, and it tries its best to struggle out of the portal. And it gets one more paw, one of its hind legs, through the portal and into the material world, its massive paw stamping onto the wooden floor. It tries to pull itself free. Reynard the Fox makes another wisdom saving throw to try and break out of being frightened. And he rolls an 8.
Wow.
Don't like it, do you? Feeling trapped inside your own mind.
It is now Vianne's turn.
Vianne begins to sashay around this beast, watching it struggle in between a portal, a shadow, and a nightmare. As it is writhing in agony, she eats it up like it is delicious pie. Oh, you did promise me that I would live deliciously, didn't you? Excindo. And twice she casts Eldritch Blast. The first one is a natural 1. But the second is a 23.
She holds out both hands, and the air warps around it as an invisible wave of force strikes out from each hand. One of them lands on a part of Reynard that is turned to stone, and it does nothing but fall off of his body. But the other strikes right where it revealed, the flesh behind it exploding with massive force striking it, blood splattering from his head as he screams out.
That is 11 force damage from Vianne's fury, which is then echoed by the shadow that stands before it, but with advantage, given that the fear still holds. 17.
A 17 hits. Roll for damage.
That is going to be 10 necrotic damage.
As the shadow lashes out at the hind leg of Reynard, who's trying furiously to break free, it strikes the flesh as it turns to black molds and it crumbles from his body. At the end of Vianne's turn, Reynard the Fox takes another legendary action and tries once more desperately to teleport. And he rolls a natural 20. Black mist erupts from his body. He disappears and reappears next to Harlan, but behind him, and by a window. He erupts from the portal once more and shatters the window, most of his body hanging out now, dangling over the top of this castle by his hind leg. As he turns around and in desperation starts to gnaw at the leg still stuck in the portal. He gnaws and he bites and he crunches and blood erupts out of it as stone falls from his body and falls hundreds of feet down onto the city streets below. With a sickening crunch, he bites through the bone and he falls. And that is the end of combat.
Clever. He is clever, because he was so fucked.
He found a way out of that.
He was so fucked, because he could not willingly move, so he was stuck here until he turned to stone.
He let gravity move him out the window.
As the three of you rush over to the broken window, Ardant shortly behind, you gaze down hundreds of feet as a clump of smoke is seen. And then you see it. A three-legged massive fox sprinting its way down city streets and out of the city and out of reach.
You bastardo! You're in my world now. We will hunt you to the ends of the earth. We will kill you. We will make you hurt. Harlan, God damn it!
And he rushes over and embraces her. You're right. We'll catch him. We'll get that son of a bitch.
Throughout the battle, there was a lethal sort of tempo in the rhythm that Poppy had been conducting. While her companions jeered and called baitingly at Reynard, Poppy had maintained a menacing silence throughout. There was too much rage and anger built up to do anything but direct attacks towards it. But seeing Vienne break down and realizing the magnitude of this trickster god being released, the longbow and loose arrow that was clenched in her fist both fall to the ground, and Poppy follows them swiftly, a look of utter defeat on her face.
Gentle footsteps behind her. Are you all right, Poppy? As Ardant kneels down and grasps her shoulder.
This is the one thing we wanted to avoid.
Yes, I know. And he steps over to Harlan and Vienne. Apologies. First off, a word of thanks. Thank you, all of you, so much for saving my life. I am immensely grateful and forever in your debt. But I'm afraid I have grave news. Reynard escaping into our world is potentially the worst possible outcome. And I have something to share with you. Our world of Fracti, long ago, became inhabited by gods, Noble the Lion being one of them. But there was a condition for it. There were too many gods in the wondrous sea. And if too many gods reside within the material world, this world cannot withstand the power. And it will begin to fracture once more. Friends, because Reynard has escaped into our world, there are too many. Exactly one too many. And I do not know when, but if one of the god souls does not return to the wondrous sea, our world will end. He looks down at his feet and then lifts his eyes up again. Should it come to it, I would kill myself to see this world preserved. But that would mean that you are stuck here with Reynard the Fox. And while I do not fear him, mortals should. He is a creature of immense power and immense cunning. And he can do much damage to the peoples of Fracti.
My king, you said that you could kill him.
Yes, undoubtedly.
Then we must free you from this castle so that you can hunt him down.
Madame, I would love for nothing more.
Vian, you know what that means then, right? You would be erasing all beeskin. Makes them human.
No, we wouldn't. Vienna takes out the book that they pulled from the lake shore where the curse was first cast.
I know that book. Ardon steps forward. That looks so familiar to me. What is that?
This book is what she used to cast the curse.
You remember when Harlan and I told you that you underestimated your dear Tuvi? She didn't even finish the spell.
If she had, things would have been a lot different.
She what? Give it here, give it here, give it here.
Vian hands it over to him.
He rifles through the pages with a confused look on his face. Yes, I thought this was the book. This is just her favorite storybook as a child. And then he reaches the end with the additional pages. Clever. She used it as a conduit. So ambitious. Look at all these clauses. Me trapped here in this castle. Immortality. And... Rosa? What? She lives?
We have seen her.
No matter, there are more important things. Yes, You're right, she did not finish the spell. Or at least she couldn't. It was too powerful. She did not have the power available around her to finish it. What she was asking for was too much. And what do you plan on doing, Madame?
I plan on asking for what I can afford.
I plan to return you to magic. Maudite may not use spells.
But as you have seen, monsieur, beastkin can become quite adept in them.
Yes. Yes, the way she has it written here. If I were to be half, if I were to be a beastkin, the conditions of the curse would not apply to me. I could leave this castle and I would return to full power. This page right here, we could change 3 words and it would change the curse. It wouldn't lift it, but it would alter it just enough. You would do this for me.
I would do it for everyone. I think that with a little careful editing, I can let the component for the spell become the limiting factor, which means it would affect everyone within the radius of its power.
Now, hold on just a minute. Everyone. So you're talking about old Grendale, or are you talking more?
I have no idea. Would you like to find out?
I can't say I particularly do. But
I have one component that is powerful enough for this kind of magic, Harlan. I cannot hold it back if it is spent. But this is how, Poppy, we bring a king into our hunt without erasing all the beastkin that may live here.
But you are erasing something. If you knew this. Pip-Pop, you got changed without anyone asking you. This is doing that. To everyone you know. I'm sorry, Vian, but why that way?
Harlan, look at where you are standing. Vian gestures out the broken window that Reynard leapt through into the broken city streets of the old crumbling Artois, and in the hills beyond, and in the sunlight touching distant lands. Champ de Soleil is out here. The people here are beastkin. I don't know how far the component could possibly spread this magic, but breaking the curse would most assuredly turn us all into human.
Can you make it so it doesn't go any further?
I don't know.
Apologies, monsieur. I don't know either.
We'll try, damn it.
Rest assured, monsieur, we will. If I may, I understand the gravity of this choice, and I will repeat what I said earlier. To do things for the greater good, we must make the hard choices. If that fox is allowed to run, he will wreak havoc and chaos upon this land and the lands further, and eventually begin to destroy the world.
Now, freeing you, no, there's no question about that. It's just how we do it. And he looks right at Veering. I don't know if I can stop you if you're determined to do that.
I don't want to hurt you, Harlan.
You know I'm not worried about me.
It may only affect you. If we're lucky. But if we lift the curse, Harlan, it affects everyone who lives in Alising. There are millions of people who are trying to build a world for themselves down here.
And we couldn't do that as humans? I don't understand, and I don't pretend to. But how terrible would it be?
Because either way, Harlan, you're taking the choice away from someone.
I know that.
So why not show people that being beastkin is not the curse they think it is?
Why make people think that much?
Monsieur, Madame, I am sorry, but we are wasting time. Every minute we talk, he runs further.
Well, you two do what you're gonna do. But what if you do it now?
Shall we, Madame?
Poppy?
Yes.
Come, we do it right here. Open the book. And he kneels on the ground. And as you open the book and you flip to the last page, he places his paws on it. Do as I do. Place your paws on it. Your hands, sorry.
Anne places her hands on the page next to his.
You know the ancient language, yes? I know you do. You've been casting spells. You need to look at these 3 words. And you need to change them. And these words cannot be spoken. They can only be written. You will form them in your mind. These 3 words. This word means to turn everyone into monsters. The second says to turn them to monsters forever. And then the last tells the spell to engulf all of Alizé. You need to change all 3. Do you understand?
Harlan takes Poppy's hands. I know I've said my piece. And you can still end this the other way. Think of your brother. Think of your pa. How is he gonna deal if this happens to him?
Harlan, I've seen too much now to want the other outcome.
I know you're talking about harm. What about those people? Those people you know. Those people you love.
That didn't stop them from casting me out.
Think about what it'll do to them.
Don't hold me to this. Don't make me suddenly the moral officer.
I'm sorry. It's not fair. We don't always get to choose what our role is.
Madame, are you prepared?
Yes, my king.
All right. This tower is a font of magic. The wondrous sea is strong here. A raging storm. When you begin to change these words, you will feel the effects of the storm. Do you understand?
I understand.
You will channel it into the book, and you will also channel through me. My body can take it. I will help you so that your body is not ripped apart. Are you prepared?
Yes.
Begin.
Vien's delicate hands are touched on this book as power begins to swirl around them and as magic wells up in arcs of color and sound. It walls her off from the vision of both Poppy and Harlan, and she looks at them just briefly as they disappear past the gaze of magic. She can't look at them now. She's made this choice now. God, Harlan is going to hate her for this. She thinks in her mind, and the old language that she has studied and knowledge that she had to steal from humans because they would have taken it from her people forever. She changes monster into beastkin. She changes forever into lifetime. And she changes Alize. And as she thinks of Alize, she remembers that first glimpse at sunrise as she looked out across the bay to her home. And as she pointed it out to people that would be her new family. And the word Alize begins to change into home. And she tries to hold it back into the borders of Alize, south of the Violette Forest, south where only beastkin live. But it's not just south, because home is north, too. Home is Port de Glace. Home is Ardenneau. Home is Benoit. All these many years she has wandered, she has called this continent her home, and she holds this magic back through her tears, through the fury of old curse rushing through her and into the body of the Sun King. But she names her terms and gives her price. And Vienne sacrifices all 5 levels of Warlock.
All of you feel the ground shake beneath you in this tower. As the green mist swirls around Vienne and Ardent, and it expands and extends outside of this tower and into the sky, a raging storm. As you feel the electricity in the air at your fingertips, something immense is happening. As the words seem to lift off the pages and float in the air, electricity forms around this tower. The wind swirling, the mist flowing through the book. As Ardent looks up at Vienne, Madame, what have you done? And a shockwave rings out from this tower of this castle. And it extends far, far away in every single direction. All of you are blinded for a moment as you shut your eyes and you stumble. And it doesn't start immediately, but you start to hear it faintly. And then, clearly, the sound of crashing waves. And that is where we end our season. What did you do?
Oh my god.
What did you do? What did you do? What did you do?
Oh, no.
That's season 1, everyone.
Yes!
Well done, guys. We made it. Oh my god.
We did it!
Okay, there's so many things to talk about.
Kaylee, what did you do?
I don't know. No idea, guys. It went great. It went so great.
It was so poetic the way you put it, though. That was
so great.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
You just promised your new friend that you'd try, and you did try.
She did try.
It's like how to do it all, but still have. That was really beautifully done.
Yeah, I want to say that as a DM, that was a moment for me that was like one of my players, in lieu of me prompting them for a dice roll for them doing what they want to do, has given the story that dice roll inherently of just like, oh no, she wasn't focused, and pass it back to the DM. And I'm like, man, that's awesome. I get to play. That's so cool.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. Thank you, Kaylee.
Just so beautiful.
That's so satisfying. Thank you.
You're welcome. Sorry. Hey, we get to see Harlan as a beastkin in season 2.
Mm.
Yeah!
And everyone.
Well, we don't know how far. We don't know how far.
What is home? But I mean, you kind of went over what home was, but I don't know how far the book's going to take it.
Yeah, because Inga's spell failed because the cost that she offered was deemed not enough by the gods.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, she offered her own bloody heart, and I just wrote myself back to level 0. So, yeah, you guys are welcome. You now get to cart around an NPC.
Lovely.
Fun.
I will say that when you said that, my eyes bulged. And for a half second, I thought about it, and then I was just like, no, that actually is a lot. That is eldritch power gifted by one of their own.
Yeah.
And that to me is just like, it's very interesting. And again, this is not her casting a new curse. Let's make that very clear.
It's just a little editing.
Not casting a new curse. This is a little editing with a little addition. So that initial cost that was paid of Inga's heart is still there. Like her heart's still like missing, right? Because she already paid that cost. So you didn't lift the curse, but you added to it and you modified it a little. But it required a bit of addition, a little additional cost, and you paid that cost. And I, as the DM, deemed that as that is a sufficient cost to pay.
Yeah. Because it's not the pact. It's just the power.
It's the power that he gifted, correct, and that he can't take back. You have used it to fuel this. I am totally so happy about that.
So it's not the pact. The pact is still there.
The pact is still there.
Yeah. Immortal Soul is still totally screwed over, but that's the only thing I had on my character sheet that was worth a damn.
You still have your hit points, right? Your hit points didn't go away.
Yeah, negotiable with the DM. We'll figure it out.
We'll figure that out.
Hi everyone, it's Wesley, the producer behind the show. You usually don't hear from me, but I just wanted to step in at the end of the season and give you all a huge thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed the show so far. I'm also excited to let you know that Season 2 is already in production. Yes, we are actually recording new episodes as we speak. We can't wait to share what's coming up next. In the meantime, if you'd like to support our show, please check out our Patreon. It helps us to keep the podcast going and gets you some pretty cool behind-the-scenes perks. And if you're new around here or just want some more content to hold you over until Season 2, be sure to dive into the other campaigns we've made, included Stellaris Obscura, a 3-episode Candela Obscura miniseries, and The Stranger, a heartfelt yet dramatic Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition campaign. I'd also like to thank everybody who supports us on Patreon. You really are the motivation that keeps us going to make these incredibly complicated productions. Thank you to Jacob, Corey, Argent, Chow, Ben, Andrew, and Bob. Please come join our Discord. We love talking to people about the shows we make. And last but not least, the rest of this post-season chat is available on our Patreon. Thank you for sticking around with us, and we can't wait to see you in the next season.